guys. Well, as I introduced myself already, my name is Matthew Lett, and I'm an instructor here at Full Sail. And today I have an awesome guest that's going to be talking with you guys about some great things. A lot of you have aspirations to work at agencies or creative shops. So today we have an interesting topic called how to work at a creative agency and not die. So I want to bring out today an awesome gentleman. I've had an opportunity to chat with him prior to today's presentation. Great human being, great spirit. His name is Quinn, and he's the founder of Big Vision.
Thanks, Matthew.
Right.
Appreciate it. Let's see. Make sure this is all hooked up. Cool.
All right.
All set?
Awesome. Yeah, man.
Let's
We're all set, man. So, you want to go ahead and play the presentation, or what do you want to get into first?
Just go ahead and run through some of the first questions,
Cool,
and I'll
cool.
just flip through the presentation as we go.
Okay, awesome. Well, I've had an opportunity to talk with you. You're a great human being, and you shared some things about like just your overall growth as a creative and as an entrepreneur. And just tell us a little bit about yourself. Share some of these great things that I've heard about you with the audience.
Yeah, definitely. So I've taken an interesting journey to the agency world. So I have a business background. Growing up, came from a really small town, didn't have much of an opportunity to dive into the arts like I originally set out to do. So I kind of took an alternate path of I went to business school and recognized that if I pursue an understanding of business, then that can get me back to the creative field in the future. And so having the opportunity to actually work with my wife, who has over 10 years experience in agencies from Saatchi & Saatchi Global in New York City to Red Square and Mobile and beyond. It's been a really fun journey to work together to build what we have now as Big Vision.
Nice. And share a little bit about what Big Vision is all about. I was reading on your website that there's a statement when you go on the homepage. It says, a modern creative agency. Expand on that a little bit more in the context of today's world.
Yeah, definitely. So, we're Big Vision. Really, when it comes down to it, we're a collection of great friends. Love the team that you guys see up on the screen. We have a great time doing the work that we do, but we're focused on the future. One of the taglines that we run with from time to time is inspiring brands to chase the future. For us as creatives in either of our disciplines, we really look to infuse technology, creativity, content into pushing brands outside of their comfort zone to try things that are new, to do things differently. We're not a shop that's going to buy a WordPress template and slap some content into it, because that's not being on the edge, and that's not putting our clients at the forefront of what their industry is doing. So that's where that modern piece comes in. It's like we're not focused on let's design billboards and do newspaper ads. We're like, how can we use social media and web and any kind of platform to connect with people.
Nice.
Yeah.
And now you mentioned something about not doing certain things a certain way. Is that one of the reasons why you started an agency, to do something different, to add a unique value to your clients?
Yeah, for us, I would say one thing that really separates us is service and being focused on really helping our clients help their customers, right? Because in the end, we're helping a business connect with their target audience, whether it's other businesses or direct consumers. So for us, it's as an agency, a lot of agency cultures can become very inward focused, and you kind of think about Mad Men and the old school way of how the ad agency works, but it's not really like that anymore. It's about being collaborative, being innovative, being inclusive, and just really finding good people to do good work for.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you actually segued into the next thing I was going to ask you is, how do you find people? What is your ideal kind of personality type or skill set that you look for when you're trying to collect that team that you talked about?
When it comes to growing the team at Big Vision, it really comes down to a few things. It starts with the intangibles for me, right? Anyone can work a program. Anyone with enough time can figure out how to do some nice things in Photoshop and Illustrator and whatnot. But it comes down to the intangibles of what's going to get you in a place like Big Vision and what's not. And it's effort and attitude. those are the two things that get you in the door at an agency and keep you there. Do you come in and day after day, do you put in the effort to get the job done, and not just to take care of you, but to take care of the people around you? Absolutely. And then that reflects on your attitude. Like, do you walk in the door every day with a smile and a positive vibe? Or do you walk in, it's like, oh, this is Monday. Like, man, I partied too hard this weekend. Like, why do I have to be here? Like, I just wish I could win the lottery and never have to come back to work. Like, that's just toxic for everyone else around you. So it's those intangibles, effort and attitude. That's what gets you in, and that's what helps you survive in a demanding environment like an agency.
Nice. Yeah. Now, if you were to talk to the students that are watching this, and as well as the students in the room, what advice would you give them in terms of how do they get in front of someone like you, or the recruiters that may work for your agency? How do they bring their creative skills in front of you to even be considered?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'll flip over to this next slide to kind of touch on that. At Big Vision, we do a lot of different things, right? And so, when people are sending their resumes in and their portfolios, what I find more often than not is the candidates who don't make it are the ones that try to do all these things. Like, we do brand, we do web, we do print, we do video, we do photography, we do social. Like, we do all these different things for our clients, but what we don't need is someone who does them all, like, average, right? Because I talk about this with the team a lot of, if you look at your life as your career as you have 100 points to spend on different abilities, right? Who's going to get picked? The person that spread their 100 points across 10 abilities, or the person that put all of their points in one, right? I'm going to pick the person who's 100 out of 100 on video production before I pick the person who's a 20 on 5 different things. So I think that's really your opportunity to break in and really make a name for yourself, is to really focus on what can you do better than anyone else that's applying. Because nowadays, too many people can be okay at everything. But the people who stand out are the ones who are great at specific things.
Nice. Very nice. Now, outside of like skill sets or technical abilities or like creative proficiencies that you see in portfolios, is there a type of personality trait or just characteristic that you look at that you want to make sure, in conjunction to hiring you for your skill set, do you fit in this company's culture? Like, do you also look for certain nuances in people?
Yeah, outside of effort and attitude, we really look for, I look for a couple other things of, are you smart and can you get work done? Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to when we're working for brands and trying to build their businesses. Absolutely. In the end of, are you smart? Like, if you're just not a smart person when it comes to what we're talking about, then you're not going to survive in an agency. Like, if you just don't get how Facebook ad manager works, then don't try to apply to be a digital strategist at an agency. But if you understand the ins and outs of web and how to construct a pleasing, customer experience as they navigate through a site, then focus on that. Don't try to talk about and pretend that you're smart with, Facebook ads, because anyone with any experience is going to see right through it. So it's, be smart and be strategic of what you're diving into. And then the other half is, can you get work done? We've worked with plenty of people who are so smart, but they can't make it in an agency world because they can't get work done. Because at the end of the day, you can have the fastest car, but nothing matters till the rubber hits the road. And if you can't come in day out and push product out and make clients happy with what you're delivering, then you could be the best creative, you could be the best copywriter in the world, but if you don't get work done, then you have no value to the agency and you have no value to the client.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say students watching, as well as the students here present in this room, workflow and production processes is something they should be keeping in mind in their classes that they're in right now?
Yeah, definitely. Don't know like if I can endorse stuff here, but I would endorse the show The Profit if you've never seen it. NBC show. It's all about business, right? And one of the main things that I focus on every day, that Marcus Lemonis, who's the investor on the Profit, people, product, process. That's what it all comes down to. At our agency, we've got great people and we have great processes, and that leads to a great end product.
Nice.
And so if you're someone who believes that you can just do what you do and it just comes to you and it's all like magic and ethereal, like it's not gonna fly in a business setting because you have to work with other people. Like that, a lack of commitment to a process, you can't have other people collaborate with you to push you forward or to work together to get something done. So process in your own day-to-day of how you produce what you do is extremely important, and making sure that you recognize that your process always needs to be adaptable. Because, I mean, I don't know if you guys have the perspective, but like, there's a new app for something every day. Like I have so many newsletters that I'm subscribed to of like, here's the 10 new apps that came out today. And we're always looking as an agency and individuals like, hey, did a new app come out today that can make me more efficient, or that can let me do something that we haven't been able to do for a brand that we work with.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So describe like an overall day, all right? So someone's coming into the office, and what does it look like in terms of production, meetings, correspondence between departments? Like, talk to us a little bit about that.
That's a great question. I'll actually jump over and play a quick video.
Okay.
That's just kind of our highlight reel from last year. Has a lot of behind the scenes stuff, just so you can see what Big Vision has been up to and a little glimpse, and then I can talk some more about specifics.
Awesome.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
So that's a fun little glimpse into the day-to-day at Big Vision, and kind of where it ended there, right? It's all about pursuing better, better for our clients, better for Big Vision as a team and an agency, better for ourselves as individuals, whether we're creatives or whatnot. But for us, the day-to-day, our team is kind of structured into 4 different groups. So we have our creative team, our content team, our technology team, and then our support team. And I've got a few slides that kind of cover just really high level what it looks like to be in each of those teams. So our creative team, super talented, made a lot of the stuff that you see, the videos, and working through developing brands and brand identities, producing print designs, video, photography, motion graphics. So, really anything focused on visuals and bringing a brand to life. Our creative team takes the lead on. Then we have our content team, and they're really focused on driving the story and collaborating with the creative team to develop that brand voice and to make sure that the creative is staying on strategy of what the mission and the values are for that brand, and working on social media campaigns and different strategies there, email campaigns. So anything with words. It's going to go through our content team to make sure it's on point for the brand that we're working with. Then we have our tech team. So those are our developers and focus on building marketing sites and web applications and any other kind of tools that will benefit our clients and either get them more exposure or help add efficiencies and automations to what they're doing day in and day out. And then lastly, we have our support team. And so our support team, we actually call our pals, because that consists of our producers, our accounts team, and our leadership. And so our focus, and I think one thing that really sets us apart as an agency, is we look at, especially from a leadership perspective and a support team perspective, our job is to make our production team successful. So our creatives, our content team our tech team, they're our production team. Like, they make everything that goes out the door. Our job is to serve them and support them, train them, help them grow to be the best creative, the best developer possible. Because, in a lot of agencies, it's backwards, right? And it's that mentality of, well, I run the agency and you work for me and you're here to serve me, and without me, we'd be nothing. But in all reality, it's the other way. Without my team, I'm nothing. I wouldn't be up here if it wasn't for my team. So it's that perspective really has built a culture like you saw in that video. We hang out on the weekends all the time. A couple weeks ago, we took a spring retreat out to Tampa and had a long weekend and just went to art museums and got inspired for our work this year, and just talked about how we can keep growing. So, from the day to day, it really looks like a lot of collaboration, a lot of just working closely. All our desks are pushed together, and we just have a great time. We also have an internship program that we run in the fall and spring, where we have interns come in and we assess kind of those intangibles we talked about earlier. Do you put in effort? Do you have a good attitude? Are you smart? Can you get work done? Our interns aren't filing papers and counting widgets. Right? They're working on the agency's brand. They're working on some of our venture companies, and they're doing real work, not for clients, because an intern shouldn't work for your client, right? But they're doing things that make an impact so that they can showcase what they do. But in the end, it's a fun environment, and we really enjoy working together and just being methodical and doing great work for our clients. Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. Now, before we start our presentation, you talked about something that very few leaders talk about, which is company culture and corporate culture. Now, expand a little bit more on what we talked about prior about just, from what I gathered, you seem to be like an emotionally driven HR leader. And when I mean emotional, I don't mean emotions like crazy emotions, but you understand the importance of EQ, emotional intelligence, and it sounds like you lead from that perspective rather than just hammer and task. Explain to the students a little bit about your unique culture and what does it look like in terms of day-to-day and working hours outside of actually the tasks?
Definitely. So, the typical perception of an agency is like, you might as well not get an apartment because you're gonna live at work, right? But that's not our goal. As a leadership team and as a support team at Big Vision, we really focus on how can we not just make our production team more successful, but how can we make their lives easier? And so going back to the earlier in the talk process, so we're always focused on how can we add process to our culture, because a lot of agencies have that culture of like, the office is open 24/7, come in whenever you want, and as long as you get your work done, then we're cool. And that works for some people, but more often than not, what happens is, because everyone can just come in whenever they want, then you can't collaborate with your team, which means you're just stuck there waiting, and that now it's midnight, and finally, your creative rolled in because he likes to, just drink Red Bull and work through the night, while you've been there since 9 in the morning writing content. And now you're pushing these crazy hours when going into it, you thought like, oh, this great flexibility, I'll have all this freedom and I can just do life the way I want to do it. But in the end, if you don't get the work done, then you're done. Yeah. So what that turns into is just a lot less flexibility than you otherwise would have experienced. So for us in our office, we have very, I don't want to say strict, but we have very constructed schedules. We have a morning sprint and an afternoon sprint. Everyone comes in, we do a stand-up at 9. Hey, what are we doing today? Does everyone know what they need to get done? And then everyone gets 4 hours of work done. You do a stand-up at the end, and then you go to get lunch, and you come back and do it again in the afternoon. Nice. And so what that does for our culture is initially it's like, oh, I'm a creative. I don't like being locked into, restrictions. It feels like handcuffs. But in the end, it's actually freeing because as long as you get the work done that you need to get done in that block of time, then you're done. Like 6 o'clock rolls around, your 8 hours are in and you go home. And what that's done for our culture is it really helps people to recognize that as a leadership and support team, we are putting things into place for their best interest in the end of the day. And then what we find is when things come up and it's like, crap, like we've got a deadline, we've got to stay late, no one complains about it because it's so rare that it happens. Because we know at a lot of agencies, out there that you're there late night after night after night, and it's just accepted as the agency and life. But, for us, we feel like that's just not acceptable.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you have found as a leader a healthy balance between, when production needs to happen and then balancing just the mental health and just the overall health of your office. That's awesome.
Yeah.
In terms of like your team, how do you inspire collaboration and getting your staff involved in prospecting clients, or, how do you give feedback on, hey, you're working on this and I need you to make these changes? Like, describe a little bit more about that. I think the students really need to hear some of that production process.
All of that in the end of the day, it comes down to communication, right? When you're going out and you're going to work in an agency, if you put yourself in a bubble, you won't survive. You'll die in your role there. It's all about, you go into an environment, get to know all the people around you, form relationships, form connections, so that when you need help, you have people to help you. And when other people need help, you can jump in and help. And all that's going to do is make you be more of a team player, make you more valuable in the agency that you're working at. And so, that's really important, just to communicate and connect with those around you, and to voice your concerns. One thing that our team knows at Big Vision is, like, I do one-on-ones with our entire team. I try to do them every month, but things usually get busy. But I just sat down with each of our team members this week, and for a half an hour, whatever you need. You've got questions about the employee handbook. You've got concerns about a project that's going on. You need help somewhere. At the end of the day, is if you leave because you're dissatisfied with your experience and the culture and your life at Big Vision, then it's your own fault, because you have every opportunity to speak up and voice it. So that would be, my encouragement to the students here for sure, is like, when you go in, like, don't be shy to let people know if things aren't working, because if you have good leadership, if you're in a good culture, people will step up to help you, because, leadership of an agency, like, we want to see you succeed. Like, I want to see my creatives do the best work that they can do. And so we're always, as a support team, looking to provide any opportunity we can to inspire new work, to try things that are different. One thing we do different, at Big Vision that I'm sure a lot of agencies don't do, is on Fridays, we don't do client work unless absolutely necessary. So one day a week, Monday through Thursday, we're really focused. Like, it's all client work. We're not messing around. But when we come into the office on Friday, we're playing ping pong, we're eating donuts. We start off the morning at 9, and we just do an inspiration session. We call it Campfire. We make any announcements, like, hey, here's new clients that we won this week. Here's new things and news going on with the agency. And then the whole team, like, shares things that they came across during the week that was inspiring, whether it's a Vimeo staff pick or a cool website that someone saw and they really liked a UI element. So, it's finding things like that that are just outside of the norm, but give everyone an opportunity to, again, to jump in, to speak up, to have an opportunity to have a voice in the company, and to connect with those that are around you.
Very nice, very nice. Now, outside of creative development and talent and skill sets that the students right now that are watching and here present with us that are going through, what are some things as a professional that you could share with the students that they should consider development, like personal development, of integrating into a corporate environment, or I would say just a creative environment in general?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Just give me a second on that one. That's it. I don't know any of these questions, so I was like, I want to do this unscripted because then it's more real, and then I'm not worrying about I gave the wrong answer on something. So yeah, it's when it comes to like professional development, what you can do outside of your role, it comes down to having the right mindset. That's really, what I've seen time and time again, the people at Big Vision who are successful and doing great work, and the people who come in and within days or weeks or months are gone. It really comes down to mindset of, thinking like an owner. Like, are you making decisions that are in the best interest of yourself or your entire team? because that makes a big impact. If it's all about me, and I'm on a team, then there's going to be a lot of friction there, and there's going to be issues that come up. So having that, thinking like an owner, making sure you're making decisions that are the right thing for the agency, that are the right thing for the client. Because in the end, if the client's upset, then everything falls apart for everyone. So how can you serve your accounts team or whoever is managing that client relationship so that you're not letting your client down at the end of the day? So it's having that mindset and just coming in. Again, it comes back to effort and attitude. You don't have to be good at networking. You don't have to, be an amazing public speaker. You don't have to do all those things. But if you come in an agency setting and you're focused on being the best at one or a couple things, and then you're a good team player, you have a good attitude, you work hard every day, that's really all you need. I think a lot of people overcomplicate what it takes to succeed, in any kind of position in a company. But when you boil it down to be good at what you do, that comes in being smart, work hard, that's effort, and then have a good attitude, because people want to work with and promote and give raises to people that they like. And if you have a bad attitude every day, your leadership's not going to like you.
Correct,
so don't be surprised when you're passed up for that promotion and when you're passed up for that bonus or raise, because I don't like you, and you're lucky that you're even still there if you're coming in every day with a bad attitude, I watch a lot of Gary Vee videos, and
do I.
he says the same thing. He'll fire his all-star if he's poison in the locker room. So it doesn't matter if you're the best designer in the world. If you come into a team with good leadership, you're gone if you disrupt everything else because you're all about yourself. So
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. I know sometimes we're in a creative school, an entertainment school, and most of your time, guys, we're spending building skill sets and creative things. But something that I've discovered personally is that it's important for me to do self-development, personal development, business development, find a mentor. So that's why I ask those questions, because I think outside of creative skills, it's something that we all lack.
And
sometimes.
Touching on mentorship, I think that's something that is definitely very important, because it's you putting yourself in the position that you're giving permission to someone else to call you out. And so whether you have a mentor in the company that you work with or you have a mentor outside of it, that's that person that's going to call you out when you're not giving the effort that you should be giving, when you have the wrong attitude, when you don't have the right mindset, when you're not thinking like an owner, when you're not thinking like a team player. That's where I think mentorship plays the biggest role, because again, it's not that difficult, but it's hard to do. In theory, it's easy, but execution is everything, right? That's another line from Gary, right? You can have the best ideas, but if you don't execute, you're nothing.
Correct.
And so that's what a mentor will help you do, is when you go and you sit down for breakfast, my boss is the worst at this agency. Can you believe they made me stay till midnight and blah, blah, blah. And then, they ask you, well, why do you think, you aren't getting work done? Are you putting in the right effort, or are you just blowing off all your time and then you have to stay late because it's your own fault? So, mentorship, that's definitely something that I'm glad you brought that up, that it's good, whether it's in your organization or someone outside that can just keep you in check on those basics. Because if you can stay focused there, you can be very successful.
I 100% agree. In the past couple of years, I've had to find one personally, because there's just some areas I was sucking in. And I had to get someone in my life to say, hey, listen, I'm going to hold you accountable for these things and make sure you get from point A to point D. And I'm going to supervise that process. So I'm glad that you shared that. I'm seeing some facial expressions and some body language. I want to get some energy going. And I think that it might be time to kind of open up some questions directed to Mr. Quinn. So if we can have a microphone passed around, or if you guys have any questions, you want to just shoot your hand up so they know where the microphone should go.
Hello. My question is kind of a two-part. You were talking about collaboration, and as a writer, this is kind of coming from that. Is it difficult to separate yourself from your project in a certain way, where it's like trying to be like, well, I want what's best for the project, but also personal effect towards it? And then also with the Writers Guild going on strike recently, how do you think that's going to affect creativity within the workflow of your company or other companies?
So first question, the separating yourself from the work. In an agency environment, it's more difficult because more often than not, you're shifting from brand to brand, from voice to voice. And you've got to be able to just check yourself at the door, because in the end, it doesn't matter what you think, because you have to be able to produce what's best for the brand and what's best for the client. So if you've got a style and you like to be very verbose with your words and use all those 10-cent words, but your client is a fitness client and it's all about being rough and to the point, you've got to be able to break out of that, or you're not going to meet the needs of the client. So being able to build that empathy for what is the client's needs and what is my client's customer going to respond to, that's what's important. And if you've just got to be able to set aside your own biases, your own tendencies, and break out of that. From the question of the Writers Guild, I can't say that's something that I expect to really impact digital agencies, and at least at the scale that we're at. So I really don't have a lot of insight to give you there. Apologize.
I think we have. Yeah, he was second. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hi. This is sort of related to the previous question. How much do writers interact with Big Vision? Because I saw earlier in your the content department, you had script writing. Let's say, for example, a student who's trying to get an internship at your company who's mostly specialized in prose, how would you interact with such a student? Someone who's more, do you shift them over to screenwriting or like interview notes, or what exactly happens?
Yeah, definitely. When students are coming in, I prefer to just throw you in the fire and see what happens, right? Because again, not that Full Sail doesn't do a great job with the education, but you're still a student. Like you don't know what you're best at yet. And we just like to throw people in, because you could be focused on writing for theater and think that there's going to be no application there for branded content, but you might be a really good fit for a specific client and a specific brand that needs that kind of perspective with the content that's written. And so you're not necessarily writing screenplays, but because of that background and that experience and that interest, you're able to write social media content or write website content for a brand that is in or around or has the same kind of target audience that matches up with what you're interested in. So, I think just kind of from a writing perspective, we like to, at the agency, kind of collect different flavors, right? Like, one of our writers is more kind of PR-centric and very structured with how they write, more formal. And then one of our other writers is very creative, very, what's the right word? Entrancing. I don't even know if that's a word. But just when you read his work, it's just like, oh man, this is so cool. I could just read it every day. But very different, but equally valuable in the right situation. So, I think you leverage what you are interested in and what you're good at, and you find how to plug that in and apply it where it brings value. Great question, though.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Oh, there we go. When you meet with like new clients, what's the process that you go with them? And like, do they bring an idea to you? Do you sit down with them and kind of go over what you think would be a good process? Because I've done that myself with like freelance, and I'm just curious what you do. Definitely.
No, that's a good question. That's a fun one. With our philosophy as Big Vision and what we believe, is that it's about getting better and it's about pushing forward. And more often than not, the clients that come to us, that we find that they're not thinking big enough, because oftentimes, our clients have this perspective over here that they don't know about all the awesome things that are going on. So when I can tell a client, like, we can run a Facebook campaign and target women who are engaged between 20 and 30 years old within 20 miles of downtown Orlando, they're like, what, you can do that? Like, they would have never asked for that. They would have never asked for that because they would have never known about it. But it's my job, like, because that's where I really come in to play with the agency, is leading that strategy and consulting with the brands that we support of how to leverage creative content technology and bring that together into a package that grows their business, reaches more people, or automates their systems and drives efficiency. In the end, it's all about making a difference for the business and their bottom line, impacting their customers in the end. So at the beginning, it starts with discovery of just saying, let's agree that we don't know everything about your business, and you definitely don't know everything about what we can do for you. So I hear that you just want a new website, but your brand is terrible. So we really need to take a step back and say, rather than sink 20 grand into new website with this atrocious identity, why don't we start one step back and let's get the identity in place. Do you even know who we're building the site for? If you don't know who we're building the site for, how are we going to build a website? And so it's really finding how to tactfully, push our clients outside of their comfort zone, because so many companies out there just don't know what the opportunities and the potential is. And if they're trapped in the bubble of their own perception, then there's nothing, that they can do to lead and be innovative, and take market share in their industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions? I saw her hand go up first. Sorry, guys. So microphone's coming to you right now.
Okay, so this question is directed to you. You spoke about your background in business and stuff, but I want to know, out of curiosity, what inspired you to, create this company?
Definitely. I saw opportunity. And it was one of those things where, like I alluded to, my wife, who we started the agency together, had a lot of great experience in agencies, but took a lot of notes and took a lot of insight of here's all the things that I feel like is just broken in the world of agencies, but how do you fix them? And I'm like, I know, and so it's one of those things where going into it, I wasn't I'm going to start an agency because I've dreamed of starting an agency my whole life. I've grown to really enjoy what we do, of being able to work with clients to help their businesses grow. And I say it all the time, as I love what I do because my client's success is my success. If I work with a brand and their revenue grows 50%, well, their marketing budget with me that next year is going to grow 50% too. So we all win. So it's great to be in an environment where a client's not calling me because they're in a lawsuit and now they have to spend all this money for an attorney to fix things. We get to build things. We get to push things forward. We get to rise together with our clients rather than trying to keep our clients from falling. And so it's really enjoyable to be in that scenario. And for me, it's all about the people. If you really boil it down, I care deeply for my team. My team are my best friends, and I would do anything for them. So for me, it comes down to the people. That's why I get up early and I work late every day, is because we've just got an awesome group that I have the privilege to work for every day.
Nice, very nice. I saw 3 hands up. Okay, there we go.
Hi.
Oh,
At, wait, what?
Go ahead.
At Big Vision, do you do anything with UX, UI, or visual designers at all?
Yeah, definitely. So that's our creative team. So they handle any kind of front-end design, and then they collaborate with our tech team to bring different web platforms to life. So definitely do a lot of web design. We don't do a lot of native application work yet. We're starting to break into that. But it's definitely a very interesting field. It's changing so much so fast. You go on awards and you see some of the stuff that is getting produced every day. It's pretty cool what our team's able to do in the browser that even a couple years ago you would have never dreamed. So yeah, it's one of my favorite areas that we work in is web, for sure.
Very nice, very nice.
If someone was to have, like, as a visual designer, what would you want to see in their, like, portfolio?
Great question. Glad you asked that, because this is one that doing portfolio reviews and things that I've always tried to give the feedback of the most important for me thing that I want to see is progression, because I don't want to see a portfolio with one thing, right? Because one of our creatives said when we were meeting together one day is like, an artist has their whole lifetime to make their first album, but only a year to make their second. And so you could have, if your portfolio only shows, one or two things and they're really good, then from an agency perspective, if you want to go into an agency where production and getting work out the door every day is so important, you don't have months and months and months to fine tune and perfect and craft this piece. You have to be able to work quick and efficiently. So seeing progression, I think, for me is the most important thing. And it's the feedback that I give when I see someone walk me through their portfolio. When I leave an interview or portfolio review unimpressed, it's when someone starts with their best work and goes backwards. Because the last thing I see is the first project that they did, and it's not good. And that's all I'm remembering is like, why did you show me this? Like, there was no story, there's no reason. It's just like, I just threw my work together and I wanted to put my best stuff first, and then I buried all my bad stuff at the end, hoping that maybe you would gloss over by the end of the interview. But in the end, I'm looking at it saying like, well, if I hire someone, I want to see them constantly get better and constantly improve. But I'm looking at your portfolio, and thing after thing you're showing me, it's getting worse and worse and worse. That's not the story that I'm trying to make a decision on. So that's something that I really encourage people when I talk to is like, start with your ugly babies first and explain how you've progressed as a designer, as a writer from, this was my first project in my program at Full Sail, and yes, it was bad. Let's call it out. But I didn't keep doing bad work. This is how I got better. After this month, this is how I got better this month. And then at the end, this is the best work that I'm doing now. And you can see how I've came in 2 years from here to here. If you hire me, imagine where I'll be in 2 years when I'm here and I'll go to here. So progression is what's most important to see in a portfolio, in my opinion.
I like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think you were next.
What's going on?
Good, man.
Okay, so I noticed in the creative field, you said they basically like create the brand and really like push it forward. So I was wondering, like, you have like your video, your graphic design, like components of the web design.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have people that handle like strictly video and graphic design, or are they all over the place, or how exactly does that go with the creative team?
Yeah, our creative team, they have talent in each area, but each of our creatives definitely have strengths where they're better in one area than the other. So it's nice to have a creative team with good experience who they can shift with the needs of the clients and the projects that are coming in, because sometimes we're really heavy with web work, and we're doing a lot of that. Sometimes we're really heavy with brand work. If we land 3 or 4 new clients in a short period of time, typically we're all starting with the brand, so we've got a lot of work there, but then when that's done, that all transitions into web. And so having a team that has the flexibility to dive into different things, but we always try to focus on putting the people who have, if someone's really good with photo and video, of trying to flow as much of the work to them, because in the end of the day, we're trying to make sure that we're putting out the best work. So, yeah, great question.
Awesome.
My question is directed more towards you as a person.
Yeah.
But what was that moment in your life when you knew exactly what you wanted to do? And the second part of that question is, what was the first moment you realized you were taking like steps towards your goal? And what was that moment of like your peak where you just felt like you made it?
Yeah, great question. So first question, when was that moment that I felt like I knew what I wanted to do? Haven't had it. And I don't think you should. Like, if you're waiting for that moment, then you're waiting. Like, why are you waiting? Like, just chase something. Like, if you don't know, like, no one's gonna know. Like, if you're just focused on, I've got to find that one thing, my calling, and just chase after that. Like, I'm gonna make, just I'm not even gonna try to make something up, but like, for me, it's one of those things where like people will get paralyzed by the fear to act and to just move. Like, just do something. Who cares if you don't know what you want to spend 50 years doing? Because you're going to change. Like, the market's going to change. You might be like, I'm called to do Flash animation on the websites. If that's your calling, you're in some trouble because no one cares about that anymore. Yeah. So, you can't have that mindset of, I've got to find my calling and that's all I'm going to do, because the market doesn't care about your feelings. Yeah. If Flash goes if Flash isn't the standard, if you're coding in Ember or Angular and that, now everyone's doing React and no one wants that anymore. But, Angular's my calling, man. Like, that's all I ever want to code in. Okay, great. Well, you're not going to have a job. You're going to be of no value to the marketplace. And so that's, for me, you've got to be adaptable because the market changes every day. Yeah. A new app comes out every day. Eventually, Twitter will finally no longer be in existence, and something else will be in its place. And so you've got to you can't have that mindset of like, I've got to find my calling and chase it. You've got to do things, and you've got to look for opportunity. Like, your calling, and that's for me. It's like, my calling isn't this thing that I'm going to do, but I'm looking for opportunity. Hey, my wife's worked in agencies for 10 years. I'm passionate about business and creative and making things. Opportunity. Hey, I find some good creatives, and it's just a couple people in the business right now, but I've got a young guy who wants to join us and is talented. Opportunity. Let's do it. A prospect walks in the door and, hey, I just want a website, but their brand's bad. You walk into their office and the whole experience is terrible, and all they think that they want is a website. That's opportunity. And so I think that's what you've got to be looking for, and that's what I'm always looking for. What's the next opportunity? Not like, what's the thing that's right for me? Because if it's all about you and your career's all about you, then you're not going to make it very far.
Wouldn't you say that you're passionate about what you do, and
oh yeah,
it's
definitely
something that you dreamed of doing for a while?
No, and I think one thing that's important to keep a mindset of is there's a difference between joy and happiness, and I think people get that mixed up a lot.
Right. Yeah.
Like, happiness is circumstantial. That's like, you can't control your happiness. I can control your happiness. I could say something to you right now and you're no longer happy. But you could still have joy. You can have joy in all circumstances. Right. And it's all, again, like I mentioned earlier, it's about your mindset. Yeah. How do you go into things? Like, it doesn't matter if you're designing for Nike or, you're serving up a chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A. Like, you can have joy and you can have purpose and you can look for opportunities in those situations. And it's when you have that mindset, you'll start to find that no matter what you do, you'll start enjoying it. And you'll start having a passion for it, regardless of what it is. And so, that's my advice to you and anyone else is, like, lean into where you're at right now, find opportunities, and make sure that you have a mindset of joy and thankfulness in that opportunity, and that will take you down a path. Because you don't know where you're going to be in 10 years. Right. You have no idea. And so to have that mindset of just looking for opportunity and being a good person focused on helping those around you, looking for that chance, because you're going to be working next to other people who don't have that mindset. They're not going to be looking. But if you're the one looking, you're going to be the one that gets to take advantage of it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, guys? Oh, yeah. She's closest to the mic, so we just go grab her.
Hi. My question is, for an agency that deals with different types of brands, do you struggle to find creative approaches to push those brands forward? And if you do, what are some techniques or advice you can give to people that are in a creative rut or
Yeah, definitely. So at Big Vision, we're not a shop that only works with one kind of brand. So we work with CPA firms, fitness technology, nonprofits, healthcare, churches, everything in between. For us, we feel like it's to our advantage and it's to our clients' advantage that we have a very diverse experience, because we're not a team that's just like, okay, law firm, here's a website and a brand that we gave, and it looks the same as the 20 other guys that we worked with this year. And so, I think it's about being inspired. It's about having a broad perspective, and again, keeping your eyes open for opportunity. If you're working on a healthcare client, and you're learning things about healthcare and how people respond to messaging and creative done in that industry, and then the next day you're working with a fitness client, those are kind of related, like healthcare, fitness, it's all about living well and improving, your health. Like, what can you pull from healthcare to infuse in fitness that maybe a fitness client has never even thought of, and vice versa? What can you, do or recommend or write for a healthcare client that maybe is, commonplace in the fitness industry, but someone's just like, well, we've never done it that way. Then great, let's do it. Like, that's opportunity. That's a chance for you to step out as a brand and do something that your competitors aren't doing. Like, if all your clients are just doing what everyone else is doing, then there's no chance to be great in that. So being diverse and open-minded is very important.
My question is more like, what would you say is your biggest mistake as a young entrepreneur? And now that you're successful, what would you say to the younger version, like the young entrepreneur that just started in business?
Great question. Biggest mistake so far. I would say, it's still early on, and I recognize, we're not in our 20th year of business. We haven't made it as an agency. We're still growing. We're still scrapping, looking for that next client that we can do great work for. But I think, mistakes that I've made along the way of like, it's stuff I'm working on right now. It's like delegating and not trying to do it all yourself. Like, when you have a great team around you, like, lean on your team, like, ask for help. Like, if you're being that person that is helpful and is kind and has joy every day and a good attitude when you come into the office, like, you can reach out for help and get help from those around you. And so I think, delegating and having trust in other people, it's tough to do when at the end of the day, like, it falls on you to make the right decision. And so I would say that so far early on, that's probably been the main mistake, is trying to do too much and not, pulling the rest of your team in, because no one can build and scale a company on their own ambition. Like, you have to have good people around you that you trust and that you delegate out to get the job done. Younger version of myself, advice. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've been saying, man, like, it comes down to just being open-minded. Like, don't trap yourself in, this is what you're going to do. I'm just going to climb the corporate ladder and, do this. Like, if you think what your 20-year plan is, like, I mean, go buy a lottery ticket, because you can foresee the future. Like, I mean, none of us, like, in reality, none of us here know what this world's going to be like in 20 years.
It's true.
I mean, think about, it's 2017 right now, 97. Like, I mean, how old were most of you guys? Like, but the world was a very different place then. And 20 years from now, when we're all sitting in self-driving cars, just like going around doing whatever, like, it's going to be completely different. And so, I think it's just like, you've got to focus on being flexible and looking for opportunity and, learn the basics. And I think that's what's, most important, of like, focus on what you do really well. For me, it's, strategy and being able to connect the dots of how do you bring things together to create a solution. So I've really just leaned into that and leveraged it in an agency environment. But still staying open to, whatever else comes up. We're going to pursue it and chase after it. For example, we moved into a new office this last year, which, along with our office space, is a 12,000 square foot rooftop downtown Orlando. So we walked into that looking for a space, and my first thought is opportunity. You know, I can look at just getting an office that's going to cost me money every month, but instead I'm looking at this not as an expense, but an opportunity to grow more business and now we've built a brand and we've created another company that runs and operates and hosts events and things there. And it's, again, if I was focused on all I ever want to do is run an agency, I would have never started that business. You know, our team wouldn't be benefiting from that business, but it's having that open mind, having the right attitude, working hard. We all work hard. You know, what I do is not easy. 80 hours a week is average. You know, I wake up, I'm thinking about work. I go to sleep, I'm thinking about work, and I'm working in between. And so, you know, it's not for everyone. You know, some people, you're not destined to be a creative director. And, you know, that's one thing that a lot of students, especially in the creative world, have a hard time realizing is you all can't be creative directors because there has to be people in other roles, right? And so it's having that recognition that you're not less of a person if you're not a creative director. The guys that I admired most weren't the ones running the studio. They were the ones actually getting work done, and they were the happiest because they weren't the ones not doing creative work and just sitting in meetings every day. You know, one of the artists there he just sat on his Wacom every day just doing concept art, and he loved it because he didn't have to go to meetings and he didn't have to have HR talks with people, you know. So it's having that perspective of like, you don't have to be on the top because everyone's not cut out for it. But it doesn't mean the top is the only place where success is.
Nice. I saw one other question. Yeah, there we go.
So what are some practices and habits that we can start to put into place now to not only survive but thrive in a business like yours?
Definitely. You know, in an agency world, ask questions. If you stop asking questions, you die. Like, because then at that point you think you know it all, and you don't. You know, coming out of school, you go into an agency, I know you have a degree when you come out, but assume you still know nothing. And ask questions to everyone. Like I said, you know, from the start, like, get to know the people around you, and always be learning. You know, it's something that we challenge ourselves. That's why on Fridays we have inspiration sessions to share what's going on and what we've come across that's new. So we can always be staying on the edge, because the moment as an agency or as an individual that you stop learning, then you're now behind. Because in the industry that we're in, things change faster than you can keep up with. And if you stop trying to keep up, then you're no longer relevant. You know, if you're an agency out there that still believes for some reason that mobile isn't relevant, then the clock is ticking, right? You know, if you believe that billboard and newspaper is where it's at still, I mean, you're in for a rude awakening, right? But it's because you've got to adapt, you've got to learn, and always be looking for opportunities to grow yourself. So going into an agency environment, you know, that would be the recommendation of, like, connect with the people around you, because you don't know where those people are going and what's going to happen. You know, you might be at the agency your whole career, and you want to get to know the leadership, and you want to get to know the seniors there. You know, you might not be at that agency your whole career, but you got to know someone ahead of you really well, and they went to another great company, and then you got to go along with them. So it's all about, you know, connecting with the people that are around you, and just looking for the opportunity. Yeah.
We have another question?
Yeah. So we were talking about opportunity today, and you were talking about all the departments that you specialize in, and I was looking at the videography, but I noticed that you don't have an audio team. So I was just reaching out to you about that opportunity.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I mean, the creative team, you know, works their way through audio. That's something that, you know, haven't had enough. You know, it's all about, as a business, you've got to, like, stretch into a new pair of pants, right? Because you can't just go hire an audio guy and not have any audio work. And so, you know, that's how, for us, like, our culture is so important in our business. Like, we're not a turn and burn agency where it's like, all right, you come in and who cares if you're gone in 6 months, because we're just going to burn you out and get the next guy to plug in. Like, every hiring decision that I make, you know, we try to hire full time and staff and grow the business because of culture. and to have, that synergy with our team and just that good vibe every day when we walk in and we know we're all here yesterday, we're all going to be here tomorrow as long as we're doing what we're supposed to do. And so, it's about like you take on extra things, and as a team, we want to keep growing. We'd love to have a full-time audio engineer because we're doing so much video work. So it's about like, it's something that you guys can do when you go in your career, like look for opportunities to take on more to help the business expand, so then you can add in new roles, new positions, and that can often be your opportunity to move up or to move into something that you want to do as a focus by jumping in and helping, stretch until there's room.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? You have another question? We got to get a microphone to this gentleman right here. Right here.
So I know part of your job is helping brands to keep brand consistency. How would you say that you do that with brands that come in and they kind of like have no idea what they're doing?
Yeah, that's a fun challenge, man. It really comes down to like our goal for the brands that we work with is to be their one-stop shop. So, we're going to develop your identity and give you a, 100-page brand book that breaks down exactly how you use your brand. But in the end, like most clients still struggle to adhere to, the brand standards. And so, we try to partner with the companies that we work with and say, okay, we'll make you a brand, but, keep calling us. Like, let's figure out a relationship where we're just the team doing all your stuff so that we don't have to worry about our client sticking to the standards. We just have to worry about our own creative team sticking to the standards. And so that's really our goal. It's one of those things where it's always it's a tough animal to work with and manage clients. And, we talk about this at the office, like our creatives are just like, they look at our accounts team and they're like, thank you for what you do. Because I just get to come in and clock in and design stuff and make cool artwork. And I don't have to deal with the client. Like, you guys take that responsibility on. And so, it's tough, but it's all about, caring about the person on the other side of the table and making sure that you're not just like coming down hard on them and it's like, why don't you know anything about branding? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, how dare you use the logo that way? Or even use the word logo. And, it's just like, you've got to hold their hand and explain, like, why is brand consistency important? Right. Why is it important to not stretch your brand mark or change the colors? And so it's really, you've got to educate the people that you work with, whether your client is external or your client's internal. Because a lot of times if you go into an agency, as a junior artist or a junior writer, you're not going to be interfacing with external clients. Your internal clients can be your project manager. It's going to be your account manager. And you need to be able to educate them and explain to them why you've made the design decisions that you have made, or explain to them why they're doing something that is countered in the best interest of the brand that you're working on. And so don't always think that, that's one mistake that I made early on in my career, is that thinking that clients are only outside of the four walls that I'm working. But you have your more important clients, when you're in a production role especially, are your internal clients, and making sure you're taking care of your account manager, you're taking care of your project manager.
Right. Thank you.
Awesome. We have another question over here.
Hi, I'm Josh. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to be here. So I have two questions for you. First, could you explain a little bit more about the creative process of your creative team? And what kind of software are you looking for us, for example, students to specialize in when you're considering hiring?
Definitely. So from a creative process, I've said inspiration a lot, and it starts there. For me, I really believe that if there's not many designers out there that can just start with a blank canvas and turn into something amazing. especially when you're coming out of school. Like if you're not mood boarding, if you're not trying to find the best artwork that's out there, it would be a good solution for the client you're working with and using that as a jump off point to like say, okay, this is great, but I have ways I can make it better and more relevant for the brand that I'm supporting. Like that's the process, man. Like you can't just assume that you're gonna sit there on a blank, Illustrator screen and just make this awesome artwork. Because more often than not, it's just gonna be like, you're gonna miss the mark. And so it always starts with, whether we're working with a client or we're working internally on a project, it starts with discovery, like understanding the goal of what are we trying to achieve, what do we want, how do we want people to respond to what we're making, and then working through that. Okay, we know how we want people to respond. Well, what's already out there that's doing a really good job of that? Because again, for us as an agency, we want to be innovators. We want to be on the edge and pushing into space that hasn't been explored and hasn't been tapped into. And the best way to do that is to start with the best and make it better, not start with, nothing and try to make it something. And so that's really our process of, making sure that we understand the goal, getting inspired, finding, I call it the standard setting work. Find some work that sets the bar, and then we've got to try to exceed that. And then it's working through the process of, if it's a brand identity, you sketch. I mean, you guys know the process. It's not complicated. And again, like a lot of the stuff I've said, it comes back to mindset. Like, can you, as a designer or writer, check your ego at the door and say, it's okay to find what's out there that's really good and then work off of that. Because a lot of people are held back by that misconception that I have to start from nothing. But if you think about the greatest innovators out there, right? So Jobs and Wozniak didn't start with nothing and just all of a sudden they came up with this iPhone thing. They innovated on things that were already, most people thought were good, and they made it better. And they're the ones that are remembered. None of us could say who made the first cell phone, but we all know who makes the best ones right now. And so, I think being innovative in your work, and that all also comes through iteration, right? So when you make something, you've got to be able to kill it and start over and adapt it and improve it. Like the first logo, the first draft, the first script, it's never going to be the one that makes it out the door. You've got to do it 3, 4, 5, 6, 20 times. So that's really the process.
Nice. And what kind of software are you looking for us to specialize in?
Software, that's we were talking about it earlier before this started. It's one of those that I'm just gonna sound like a broken record, man, but I don't care. Like, are you smart? Like, can you adapt to the software? Because, Adobe Suite, we work off a lot, but, we were talking about like XD versus Sketch. Like, which one should you use? Like, if you're someone coming in, it's like, I can't do anything that's not Adobe. Then, that's not the right mindset. You're not adaptable. Like, no one thought Kodak would go bankrupt, 30 years ago. Adobe could be gone in 20 years. We don't know. But if you're capable and intelligent enough to adapt to different softwares, and because it's a tool, like it's not the answer, you produce solutions. And so while yes, Adobe Suite is definitely the biggest player in the industry right now, things can change very easily. So that would fit well in our current environment, but I can't say that we're going to be using Adobe forever.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Awesome. You have a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
don't be shy.
Hi, I'm Katya. Nice to
I
meet you.
haven't ran anyone out of here yet, so.
I was just wondering, the company culture was really inspiring. What's the difference that you've noticed in your creatives, or why change it? What's the positive impact it had on the creatives?
The culture that we've developed, I think it's just I would say to be creative and to really excel and succeed, you have to be able to be comfortable, and to not have distractions, right? And, if you're trying to work as a creative in an environment where it's threatening, it's full of drama, you're constantly putting down, you're not being built up, that's really going to hold you back with what you strive to do. Our creatives aren't afraid to try something new and throw it over to me and say, hey, like, what do you think about this? Like, should we try this? And it's like, yeah, sure, let's go for it. And I think the culture, really helps to give our creative team the freedom to innovate. Because if you have a restrictive, poor culture, then no one's going to want to get outside of the lines, and you can't innovate inside of the lines. So I think the culture that we've been able to develop at Big Vision is a very important aspect of the work and the values that we have as an agency of innovation. Our 4 values are innovation, collaboration, simplicity, and service. And if we're not innovating for our clients, why would they pick us? That's how we separate ourselves. If we're not collaborating with our clients internally, we're not going to do good work. If we're overcomplicating things, users aren't going to be happy, clients aren't going to be happy, our team's not going to be happy. And then at the end of the day, it comes down to service. Like, are we serving each other? Are we serving our stakeholders internally? Are we serving our clients externally? And are we focused on, it goes back to, it's not about me, me, me. And this is my passion. This is what I'm called to do. This is my dream. This is what I want out of my position. If everything that comes out of, your mouth and your thoughts are, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, then no one's going to want you. But you've got to be focused on how can I give to those around me, because then they'll give back.
Any other questions? I know there's always that extra. There's always that extra one.
Because you were on. Hello, and thank you for the session. It was like really thoughtful and insightful.
Definitely.
That was the word.
It's my pleasure.
So my question is, it's a little bit maybe off track. Do you or your agency hold any sort of like ethical line? Like, if you have a client whose values you don't agree with, how do you deal with those clients, or how do you decide which clients to take, or do you ever reject clients? How do you go on doing that?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question, and that's a tough one. It's happened a couple times. As a leader of a business, everything ends up falling on my shoulders. Like, the decisions that I make with our team of the clients that we work with and that we accept in and that we don't, at the end of the day, outside of just the business of running an agency, it's still something that, it's my life's work of building Big Vision, and my personal beliefs, and my faith in Christ, and, my beliefs of, running a business of integrity, and with ethics. That's something that I don't believe will bring me satisfaction and joy in working as much as I work in a business if I will sacrifice my own values for profits. And so, as an agency, we were not going to work, with a brand that is doing things that just are completely counter to either my own personal values, so that I don't put my head down on my pillow at night and regretting the decisions that I've made. And we're certainly not going to work with a brand that conflicts with the values of the business itself. If a brand is making revenue and profiting off of things that we just don't believe is right and is good, then that's not something that we're interested in. And we can't get excited about it. We can't work for a brand that we can't be excited about helping support and build. Because, like I said earlier, as an agency, our job is to help our clients grow. help them reach more people, help them be more successful. So we want to make sure that, we're doing that with brands that, we don't regret helping build out. Unfortunately, there's very few brands out there that, you would really look at and be like, oh my gosh, like, can you believe what they're doing? Because, brands and companies that don't operate with integrity and their product or service isn't something that brings life and joy and betterment to people, they don't last long. And there's very few, areas like that. So, it hasn't really come up a whole lot, fortunately. I've been blessed with that. But, the times that it does, as a leader, you're expected to stay true to who you are. There's a quote that, I feel very passionate about. It's like, you only go, like, God will only take you as far as your integrity will keep you. Like, you can't go past, like, your level of integrity, because that's when you see people fail.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like that.
It's a great question, though.
Yeah.
That was a good question.
Yeah, very good, very good. Any other questions?
I was just wondering, do most of your employees still have time for their personal work, like mainly on your creative team?
So like I said before, like our goal and our culture is not to be all consumed where you have to be at the office working on client work. Our team works a normal, like 9 to 6, 4 hours, lunch, 4 hours. There's times that, work extends based on client demands. But I think one of the great benefits of the culture that we've built at Big Vision is that our team really recognizes that if there's a desire to do things outside of what we're doing for client work, that we can be more successful doing it together than on our own. So if one of our writers wants to write a book, he doesn't have to just clock out and go home and write his book and hope he can figure out how to get it illustrated and how to take it to market and how to sell it and grow something of it. We make it very clear that if anyone has any idea, we have a side company called Big Vision Ventures, and that's its whole purpose is to start new companies that our team thinks up of. So that's really my encouragement to our creatives and anyone else, our content team, our tech team. If our developer thinks of like a really cool app that would solve a need in the marketplace and it doesn't exist, and it's like, hey, let's all work together to start it up. You build it, our creative team will design it, I'll fund it and help we run it, and we'll all share in the success. And so, I think that culture of like, we're in this together and we can go further together than we can on our own has really benefited, our team when they do identify areas to, I really want to try some new photo shoots. Well, go into our photography studio and, get some people and go at it. You've got all the equipment at your disposal. Learn and grow with whatever you want to do. So,
awesome. We have, I think about, if I'm not mistaken, about 10 minutes left. I wanted to give an opportunity for our online community that is watching this right now. Are there any questions that are coming in from them? Not yet. Okay. All right.
No questions. Come on.
Oh man, we have a question up there.
Hello.
Hey, how's
Thanks
it
for
going?
being here.
You're welcome.
Oh, is that funny? Okay, so my question was, here at Full Sail, our turnaround time for projects is like lightning fast.
Yep.
What is the turnaround time for a project like in real life?
That's a great question. And it really depends. It depends on the project, the client, the requirements. Sometimes a client will call, and it happened this week. Hey, we got this, opportunity to go to a trade show, and we need some pop-up banners designed and, some flyers designed, and we can send out some email blasts before and after. Can you guys get all that designed and purchased and shipped to our hotel room for next week? And can you have the emails deployed to this email list? Okay, that's a lot of stuff to do in just a couple of days, but we'll figure it out, right? And it's just, how can we always make sure that we're stepping up and helping our clients and serving them so that they're successful? Because again, like if they go to the conference and land some big business, guess whose marketing budget's going to grow? Like, that's great. So sometimes, there's some fires and we figure it out and we've got to work really fast and efficiently. And sometimes it's the opposite. And sometimes we have the opportunities. And that's where I get excited, is when we have a client that has a budget for us to take our time on something. And that would be an area, knowing that kind of the program that you guys go through, it's very fast and it's all about cranking out work quickly and efficiently. To don't think that that's always the best way or the right way, because oftentimes it's just as, if not more important for a project, to take your time and to sketch 20 sketches and then to come back the next day and do 20 more and then 20 more and just sketch for an entire week. When we asked our team to do that, it's like, are you serious? Like, sketching for an entire week? But yes, like, we have the time. We've got the opportunity to explore and really dive deep of what's the story for this identity, and then work through the process, and then do your drafts in Illustrator for an entire week after that, or spend an entire month just doing wireframes and lo-fi designs for a website. I mean, those are the opportunities that, should be the most exciting. And I've found that young designers get frustrated by the longevity of the process when there's an opportunity. And it's really a shame to see a designer kind of to toss aside an opportunity to just really dive in deep and do something great for a brand for the sake of, I just really want to ship it because I just want to see that brand mark out in the world and out in the wild, and I just want to drive down and see it. I just want to see it. Like, you've got to just have patience and the maturity to just take your time and know that you're not going to do great work on the fly. And if you want to do truly great work, it takes time, and it takes dedication, and it takes effort, and it takes, doing it over and over and getting to the end and then trashing it and doing it over again and again before you get to the final piece.
Good advice. I like that. Solid, too. Because I found that, and I'm just listening, I'm taking this in, I'm like, wow, I love that. I found that, too, as an educator here at Full Sail. The process part is like pain. Where it's like, I just want to go from A to C and just get a result. And it's like, well, there's pre-pro, there's wireframes, there's like, what's that? I just want to finish it. Like,
yeah, it's like the show, The Prophet, I mentioned towards the beginning. Like, the investor goes in and he turns around these companies from being hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt into multi-million-dollar companies. And really all he changed is he went in and took some good people who were acting crazy because they had no process. He gives them a process, and then they're so successful. And so it really comes down to, like, no matter what role you're in, like, process is so important, especially in an agency environment, because process also allows you to collaborate, right? Because, if you're just, a cowboy in the Wild West when you're in your Premiere files and you've got clips everywhere and you've got version, ABC 123 here and like folders everywhere, and then the next creative needs to take that and create mini versions of your video for a social media campaign, and they don't know what file is the most current file. They open up your file and it's a disaster, or on the copywriting side and you've got, 20 versions scattered around 16 Google Docs and 8 folders on 3 accounts. Like, how are you going to collaborate with another writer? But it's about sticking to a process because it keeps everyone on the same page. And it keeps you from wasting time, so you're not working till midnight.
Correct.
Because you're fighting yourself when you don't follow a process.
Yeah. As we wind down, there was a question that came out from the audience. I don't remember who it was, but they said something about when someone works at your agency, how much time would they have for personal work? And that inspired me to ask a question that I think is very humane as creatives, that we need this to breathe. How important is it for you as a leader, and someone I'm sure that has many creative hobbies and all types of interests, how important has it been for you to have personal passion projects that balance you out from having to do business day to day, so you have something for yourself?
I can't say I'm a firm believer in personal passion projects. just thinking what would Gary say, right? Yeah, and I think about that a lot. I watch a lot of his stuff. Like, if you guys don't watch it, you need to start watching.
Oh, yeah.
And if Gary's watching, give me a call. But for real, like, it really comes down to, like, if you want to be really good at something, you've got to go all in. Like, why do you need a personal passion project if you're doing what you enjoy doing at work? Like, keep doing it. Like, take on more projects. And I'm not just saying this because I'm like on the leadership side of an agency. Like, you've got at an agency like all these resources and opportunities to do something that you can't go do at home. Like, we've got a full video production studio with sound, light control, backdrops, all this stuff, like all this gear sitting in the office. Like, you don't have that at home. Like,
Right, yeah.
And it's not like you have to have a client to do something. Like, that's why on Fridays we don't do client work. Like, we work on big vision stuff. We work on, just anything that we can make that's cool to have that outlet, because it does get challenging when you're just grinding out client work and you've got to stay within the lanes and you've got to be cognizant of, is this meeting their goal? But it doesn't necessarily have to be, something completely different. Like, find a way to plug into where you're at and add value to the agency that you work in through the personal projects that you're doing. Find a way to talk with your leadership and say, hey, is there like a brand that you're trying to connect with? Maybe it's like a Gatorade. Like, if the agency really wants to work with Gatorade, then just say, hey, that sounds fun. I've got this cool idea. I know it's not, a project that's going to be on my production schedule this week, but can I use the studio tonight and just do some really wicked, cool video shots of Gatorade flying around? And then maybe you can take that and go send it and connect with some people and then land us a really cool client. So that would be my advice of, like, don't like run off, but some people need it. I'm a different breed. Like, I'm gonna put all my chips into one thing and go hard, because the person who's in 80% and they're doing 20%, like they're, knitting at home and not, in design, doing awesome print layouts or crazy illustrations. Like, if I'm all in at 100% and someone's 80-20, like, I'm gonna win.
Correct.
And the market's going to reward me for that. So that's really what it comes down to, is like, if you want to be the best, like, you've got to be all in. Like, but if you're okay with, I just want to have this nice career. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, don't hear me wrong there. Like, there's nothing wrong. I've got a lot of good friends who are just happy, like, being an artist at Universal or being an artist at a place where they've got a great job. They go in, they go out, they get to do what they enjoy, and they're not worried about climbing a ladder or starting their own thing. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you want to pursue, like, I want to be that designer that everyone knows, and I want to be at this killer agency and, be elevating that agency because I'm there, like, you've got to be all in.
Yeah. 100% agree. 100%. So would you say that is your passion? You don't need anything outside of that, because that's what.
Like I said before, my team is what it's all about. Yeah. Like, if my team wasn't there, like, nothing would be here, and I recognize that. And it's not just about, like, building a business and having this brand that tons of people know about, and Big Vision's so cool, and I want to work there, or let's work together and all this stuff. Like, for me, like, what makes me happy, like, when we get to the end of the week and it's Friday, and I know we're not shipping stuff out that day, and I get to just sit down with our team and hang out for the morning and just look at inspiration and talk about how the week went. Like, that's what I really enjoy, of just like working with good people, doing good work. At the end of the day, like, that's where you can find joy and fulfillment in your work, is the people around you. Like, you don't want to be like that crazy recluse person that's, like, locked up in a attic somewhere, like, doing this crazy design work. Like, there's very few people that works for. In the end, it comes down to, like, who's around you, how are you impacting lives around you. Yeah.
Cool. I love that. And it says the importance of personal fulfillment no matter what you're doing in society.
Exactly.
And no matter what level.
Yeah, as like I said earlier, it comes down to joy. Like you can find joy in all things. It doesn't matter, if you leave Full Sail and you don't get a job in an agency, your life's not over. Like you can still have joy in working at Chick-fil-A. You can still have joy working in-house when you're just doing the same email template month after month after month, and you don't get to touch any other brand. But you've got to be able to have the right mindset, find joy in it, like connect with the people that are around you and look for the opportunity. There might be an opportunity to, pivot, and, there might be an opportunity to be in-house somewhere. Had a friend that was working at a staffing company, and, he's found an opportunity to come up with a software, and the company funded him to develop it, and then they just sold it for, I don't even know how much. Wow. But there's opportunity, right? It doesn't matter where you're at. If you have the right mindset and you keep your eyes open, it's okay if you're not at an agency, at your first stop. Like if that's what you really want to do, keep working at it. But it's not the end of the world.
Awesome. So we are about to wrap up now, and I want to thank you so much, Joe, for coming out today at Full Sail and sharing your insight regarding your vision and what inspired you to build your company, and just sharing awesome value with not only the instructors here at Full Sail, but our awesome students in front of us and online. So let's go ahead and give Joe a big round of applause. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. If you want to connect with me or the agency, you've got stuff up there. It's kind of one of my to-dos this year is to get more active on social. So won't have a whole lot of stuff going on my Instagram right now because it's pretty busy, but I'll be picking that up. But the agency's always got really cool stuff. So if you want to see, more about people at our team, we do spotlights on our team, on our blog, and you can see we took a retreat to Tampa a couple weeks ago, and you can see just kind of a peek behind the curtain at what our culture and day-to-day is like through our social and our blog. So definitely check that out if you're just curious about what it's like at Big Vision.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, definitely.
It was awesome, man. I enjoyed this.
That was cool.
Clap your hands now.